This is the Spectre ARGB SE Kit 3-in-1, comprising of 3 ARGB fans, a commander and remote control. So let's take a look at our controller. The first thing that you'll notice is that the controller comes with 3 headers. The first is the ARGB header, which looks like this. Next is the fan header, which gives power to the fans. And then finally we have the VDG header, which can be used with some Gigabyte motherboards. It's important to note that the VDG header and the ARGB work in very similar ways, and so only one needs to be used at a time. If both were to be installed, you could damage the cables and the LEDs. On the left hand side of the controller we have 6 fan power sockets, and it can bear up to 36 watts, which is ample power for all 6 fans. And on the right hand side we have 6 matching ARGB LED sockets, each supporting up to 36 LEDs. And finally at the bottom of the controller there is a SATA port, which connects directly to the power supply via a SATA cable. In order to connect an ARGB fan to the controller, it's nice and simple. Firstly, we connect SATA to the controller from the power supply. Like so. Next we take the ARGB header from the fan and connect it into the controller. And then finally we turn the controller over and then take the fan power header from the fan and connect into the control like this. And as you can see, we now have power and RGB to our fans. If you're fortunate to have a motherboard with a 3-pin ARGB header, you can connect our controller directly to the motherboard, allowing for software control. Take the ARGB header from the controller and slot it carefully onto the motherboard header. To begin with, the fans and controller are controlled by the remote. However, if you wish to switch over to motherboard control and use the software that the motherboard comes with, simply press the motherboard sync button on the remote, and now the software on your motherboard will now control the RGB effect on the fans. And again, if you wish to switch back to remote control, simply press the motherboard sync button on the remote, and now we've got full remote control for all of the RGB effects. On the bottom of the remote you can see RGB, or red, green and blue, and simply by pressing each one of these buttons we can scroll through the corresponding colour, so red, then green and then blue. Towards the top of the remote you'll see the mode up and mode down buttons. What these allow us to do is scroll through the 60 preset lighting modes built within the remote. The Q1, Q2, Q3, 4 and 5 buttons are once again preset lighting buttons. As you can see, Q1 gives the full array of rainbow wave effect. Q2 is like a dual colour mode. Q3 is a flash colour mode. Q4 is a colour fade mode. And Q5 is like a colour and white lightning effect. And again, you can click over to the mode up or mode down and you'll be able to scroll through each one of these 60 presets again. One very cool button that we've added to the remote is the hold button, which is this one here. Now if we click that now, we can see that we've stopped it on the blue and the pink, and we quite like that combination, so by holding it, that will now keep that combination on. And again, if we press the hold button, we go back to the presets. Not only can you control the lighting effects on the remote, but we've also added fan speed control. The fan auto button, if I click that now, allows for the fans to be controlled by the motherboard. However, if we press the fan plus minus button, we then have full control via the remote control, and we have 2 speeds that we can click through. We have 70% and 100%. As you can see, if I click the button, we're now running at 70% speed. And again, Now you can see that we're clearly running at 100% speed. Finally, the last button on the remote is the lock button, which is this one here. As you may have guessed, this completely locks the remote until you once again repress the lock button. Some of you may already have a BitFenix case, such as the Dawn TG or Sabre. Both of these cases have an LED button on the top of the case. Should you wish to control the Spectre fans using the button on the case rather than the remote control, you can connect the Spectre controller like so. Firstly, locate the ARGB header from the Spectre controller. Next, you want to connect this header onto one of the ARGB ports on the case's controller. And as you can see, the fans have changed and are now being controlled by the case's LED button. The great thing is that now using the remote control, you can select the motherboard sync button, which allows to switch back and forth from the Spectre controller and the case controller. So now if we press the case's LED button, it will scroll through the case controller's lighting presets. Most of the buttons on the remote are now usable. However, if you did not connect the Spectre's fan header to the motherboard and connected via SATA cable to give 100% power, when you press the fan auto button, it will switch off the rotation of the fans. To turn the fans back on again, press the fan plus minus button and they will once again start spinning. Of course, the case's preset lighting is very limited compared to the remote on the Spectre controller, and if you connect this way to the LED button on the case, you cannot utilize the Spectre RGB lighting presets until you press the motherboard sync button. If you have the NovaMesh SE TG case with its inbuilt controller, you will already know you can connect this controller to the motherboard via its ARGB header for motherboard software control. However, you can still connect the Spectre controller to this controller to allow for remote control. There are two simple ways you can do this. The first way is by taking the ARGB header from the Spectre controller and connecting to any of the 3-pin headers on the 6+6 controller on the case. Because the case controller is connected via the reset RGB connector to the LED button, when you press the motherboard sync button on the controller, the LEDs on the fans will switch to LED case button control. As you can see, we can scroll through the RGB presets by pressing the button on top of the case. And again, if you wish to switch back to remote control, simply press the motherboard sync button on the remote. And now you have the full array of lighting presets from the Spectre controller. If, like in this instance, where you already have your NovaMesh SE with the fans already installed, what you can do is take the ARGB header from the case's controller and connect it to the Spectre controller, making sure that both controllers are still connected via SATA. Next, on your case's LED button, long press, and you will see the fans flash, and now they are controlled by the remote control. As you can see, I can press Q1, Q2, Q3, and I have full control of the fans via the remote. Again, if you wish to switch back to the LED button on the case, hold the button down again. It's a bit longer this time. The fans will flash again, and now the fans RGB is controlled via the case's LED button. And again, if you wish to switch back, simply hold the LED button down, again for remote control. So that's it. The BitFenix Spectre Special Edition ARGB controller allows you to connect up to 6 ARGB fans and control RGB lighting and fan speed via remote control, but also allows you to add remote control to your BitFenix case for maximum RGB control.